The Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, it's also when someone has a continuous message that's always the same and it's always positive, it makes me really suspect because I'm like,
I love the self-help guy on the Metallica documentary who was offering the lyric suggestions.
Yeah, that's the best movie ever made, probably, about music. It's like it beat Spinal Tap. It's like if there was a competition, I have to come down on some kind of monster. It made me actually like it made me as a fan appreciate those guys in a weird way. Their dysfunction, like they became characters. One time I'll watch the movie and I'll be like, oh man, like Lars is so annoying. And then I'll watch it again, like I'll still think Lars is annoying, but I still think he's right. Or so I have a different view every time I watch it.
Yeah.
But ultimately I end up liking those guys because of it more.
He stepped out in a big way with that Napster thing. It was an odd moment for everyone because everyone was trying to figure out what is this file sharing thing?
Yeah.
How's it going to affect? And then the music business, you guys felt it first. Like you guys were the big hit more than anything because it's not the same to watch a movie on your TV. Even if you can download an illegal movie, I'm sure it'll have a little bit of a hit, but people want to go to the fucking movie theater. But with your shit, they can, once it starts, people start sharing things, you just get a file. And everybody kind of just assumed that, well, I mean, this is like this new frontier and it's not really stealing. You're just copying. It's just you're not giving them money for it, but you're not really stealing. You got this weird sort of, and Lars was the first guy to say, hey, fuck you, you're stealing. Like this, but it was a weird fight to have because hindsight is always 20/20. We know what the internet has become since then. It's incredibly difficult to try to keep a wrap on things. And to keep things to like keep someone from downloading things, like they just get there's so if you have songs, they get out there, Whereas that Napster thing was the first time this was happening, and he was the guy who was this really, really wealthy guy who was a huge success, saying, "Don't do this, like this is stealing."
Well, yeah, it's like David versus the Goliath type of thing. I mean, clearly people shouldn't steal, but is it Metallica's job to tell people that? Maybe, but maybe they should have gone directly to Napster or to their record label. But when streaming first started becoming like a real thing, we had to talk with a friend of ours who basically encouraged us to look at it and not do it. And I went with our manager, when talking to someone at Warner Brothers and said we didn't want to do it, and they were like kind of outraged. And like, you can't not do it. You can't not do it. And I didn't really know at the time, but I found out a couple months later that I found out a couple months later because I was quoted in Rolling Stone talking shit about like Sean Parker and Spotify. And it what happened is I ended up getting a phone call or an email from Daniel Ek, the owner of Spotify. And we had lunch together. And he's a fucking cool guy. He's a nice guy, very intelligent, and I really saw his side of it for the first time. And he basically, without explaining it directly, was like, that he's paying our label to get our music. What they do with the money, he can't control. And you start realizing like that. At that moment, I realized, oh yeah, there's some stock being floated to these companies, which there was billions of dollars of stock was sent.
And the label has no obligation to give you money. They gave us
like a couple $100,000 of it out of the $1 billion, because they paid it to us in the way the label does, was they paid it as an artist royalty, and they took all these deductions off of it, and it was a made up number. It's there's a lot of money in the music industry right now, and the problem is that it's like not like, okay, some of my favorite bands, for the most part, don't have hit songs. They don't get played on K-Rock. They don't have like a Macarena type shit that's going to be coming their way. You know what I mean? And that's what pays money, is like because they treat almost every stream the same. It's like there's a royalty rate for if you pay for Spotify, and there's a royalty rate for if you're listening on a free service. But what they need to do, in my opinion, is they need to say, this guy, Joe listens to music. He has good taste in music. He follows 500 bands, which means that there's no possible way that he's going to be listening to all 500 of those bands in even a 6-month period of time. But when he does choose to listen to a song, it's worth like X like 10x versus this person who's listening to Old Town Road 1,000 times a day. You know what I mean? Because Joe is like actually engaging with our thing and not just streaming the song for free and like a monkey, like bang, 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 you know, like a Pavlov, you know, whatever, mouth salivating every time they hear the little Old Town Road, whatever. I look at my Spotify thing and I'll go months. I pay for all of them. I have like YouTube, Apple, whatever. I don't have Tidal, but that's because they gave ownership to like 12 artists and they're like, fuck you. What the fuck is that? Just keep the ownership and pay a higher royalty, you fucking cocksuckers. You know what I mean? Honestly. So I'm like, anyway, I look at my Spotify. I listen to like 100 songs a month. It's barely anything. And I'm like, the way to really do this that's fair is you take my $10 fucking dollars, right? And listen to 100 songs. That's it. Because I've got so many ways to listen to music that you take that 10 songs and you give everybody 10 cents. But that's not the way they do it. They're like, we pay 0.000567 cents per stream. How could you fucking know what you pay for stream if you're a distribution service? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If I'm giving you $10 and you're going to take 30% off the top, like Apple Music used to do when you would buy a CD, and then you take $7 and throw it towards the artist, that would make sense to me. But they don't. They're like, they're keeping all this fucking cash, or they're keeping it in a pile, and then at the end of the day, they're just satiating like, you know, Rihanna's $100 million check she gets every year, or, you know what I mean? But I know a lot of artists who they get checks for like $2.50 for a whole year on a record that normally would sell like 5,000 or 6,000 copies. But there's no need, like you have to basically be an idiot to buy a CD nowadays, you know, because it's a digital file that you ultimately could download from Spotify onto your phone and have it with you forever.
Yeah.
You know? Unless you don't have the internet. You know, if you're in Alaska or North Dakota, maybe you need to have a CD.
So few people are printing CDs. So then it boils down to how much of an infrastructure do you need as an artist? How many people do you need to be representing you? How does your stuff get out there? Does it get, I mean, especially with you guys, doesn't it just get out there? Because, I mean, I just found out about you guys because somebody tweeted it. I'm like, oh, who are these guys?
I'm not worried about us, man. It's like the new bands coming out, new bands trying to break it. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
It's like, we're fine. But it bums me out.
But I mean, for anybody in the business, how much of an infrastructure do you need in this digital time?
Well,
you just need someone to figure out how to get it to people.
I think in a way, it's like when we first started, our first record deal was with a small label not far from where we are here. And the deal was this: give us 12 songs, pay for the recording yourself. We'll master it, which is the final process of making a record. It costs a couple $100. And we'll send you 50 albums, and we'll give you like 12% of the money we make. That was it. And we're going to have a $500 marketing budget. That was the deal. You know what I mean? So we basically, we made this record, paid for it ourselves, and we went on tour with this agent named Ralph Carrera. Booked us a tour, like kind of a mercenary agent who would like he'd book the label. I think paid him a couple $100 to book us this tour, and it all kind of started steamrolling. You know what I mean? But we had no infrastructure, we had no management, we had no agent, we had nothing. We just kind of got in a van, started going. And I think in a lot of ways nothing has changed except for that when we got to the second level, you know, there was a couple $1,000s there for us to make a record. There was opening slots that, you know, touring was a little bit different then. But I think we've always kind of done it in a way that was pretty DIY, and it's the same way it has to function now. The only difference is there's fewer record labels that are going to sit there and give you $15,000 to make a record, and maybe give you $10,000 to help you buy a van, and that's the hardest step. That's the threshold where bands are having a hard time getting through. You know, once you get through there, then it's like, then you get to where we were for years, which is you're on a bigger label. You're making records and no one's paying attention to you. The only reason why we ended up getting attention paid to us, I think, by Warner Brothers was for our 6 record brothers. It was a kind of a heavy time. I just turned 30. Dan just turned 30. And, you know, when you turn 30, it feels like you've gotten old, you know what I mean? And like, especially in the rock and roll business. and we had this record that I thought was great, and I went to talk to Leor Cohen with our manager. Leor was one of the guys, heads of Warner Brothers, and I was like, we're the most synced band on Warner Brothers, which is when you get a song on a TV show or a movie or a commercial. I think there's no other band for the last 2 years that has had as many syncs as we've had. But I don't even know who works the radio department at Warner Brothers, and we've been on your label for like 4 or 5 years. And Leor basically was like, fuck. He prioritized us like that week. And for the first time was like, we're going to work on your band. And when that happened, that's when the Lollapalooza shit, that's when radio, K-Rock, everything fucking changed. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It took us 6 albums, and it took us all those syncs, all that shit, all getting called sellouts all the time for a while, for having our songs.
Who's calling you sellout?
The same dudes that were at our first shows with their arms crossed.
Sellout's a funny one. You still doing the same music, stupid. It's the same music. I mean, it's not.
I think that
it's different. I think
that for this type of thing, it comes from that idea that like maybe like that band like I liked them better when it was like my secret, my friends and I secret. Like,
for sure.
I don't want to share it with this dude. That's why like it's dangerous to have your song in certain things. Like if your song comes on in Walgreens, you better watch out, man. Like that's a red flag. Because we've had opportunities to have our songs sent to like top 40 radio. And there was this thing where like if we won record of the year for Lonely Boy, Warner Brothers was going to service that song to top 40. It would have never probably been a hit, but if we would have won that Grammy, it could have fucked our whole band up. I've seen it happen with lots of bands. Like you just you become like play school level.
Yeah, but do you really think that you guys would change? I think you probably would reject it.
We wouldn't change, but the thing is like you start accessing like, you start acquiring a fan base that's more fickle and maybe more annoying. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, like a Chicago, like I bet you as a Cubs fan, like a Chicago Cubs fan in 2017 was like, fuck this World Series shit. You got every motherfucker wearing a fucking Cubs hat. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I know exactly what that would feel like. And it's probably the same thing. It's like if someone's going in there to get shaving cream, and this band that used to play at like the fucking Casbah in San Diego is playing while they're checking out. Like they're probably like, fuck this. Fuck this.
Listen, if you guys put out the same music that you put out in that time period, it wouldn't have mattered. Your music is it's you guys, you know? I mean, it's even though you've gone experimental and you've done different styles of songs, and you know, some of them feel more bluesy, some of them feel more rock. It's like it's still Black Keys. If you guys just did that, it wouldn't matter what you were on. Nobody gives a shit.